Hi, Miss G. How you doing? So this is our podcast project. I did Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno.
And I did You by Carolina Chiefs.
I'm going over the footage and I just realized that her name is Caroline Kepnes or something like that. It's nowhere near Carolina Chiefs. Oh my god. Okay,
Chiefs?
bye.
So today our goal is to just discuss our book, what our feelings were, how did we think about.
Okay, so the first question I wanted to ask was, can you give like a summary on the book, please?
Yes. Okay, so Mexican Gothic is a mystery novel set in the 1950s where Noemi Taobada is a rich paint heiress. She's sent by her father to go visit Catalina, her cousin, who has been sending very scary letters back home, basically saying that, like, oh, there's ghosts, they're trying to kill her, she's not safe, and the whole family's really scared. So she goes on this journey to go find Catalina, and once she's there, she notices that the house doesn't feel welcoming. The family feels very strange. It's very dark and gloomy. And throughout the book is a mystery of what's happening. Is the house itself the problem or is it the family? And we come to find out later on in the book that the grandfather, the head of the family, made basically like not like a deal with the devil because he is the devil basically, how shitty of a person he is. He like stole this medical remedy from the natives that allows him to basically be immortal. And he has been using that remedy to spread it throughout the house, and the house itself has become part of the family, which is why Noemi sometimes feels that the house is alive.
So it wasn't ghosts, it was just the house itself, like...
Yes. So we find out that the thing that he used was mushrooms. It was a type of mushroom that can collect memories. So the ghosts that Noemi thought were ghosts was actually just the memories trapped in the house, giving her flashes of the past, giving her context of what happened.
So it was like an energy thing, or was it just like the actual physical mushroom was making everything alive? Or was it like a spell or...
So I don't think it's magic. The way that they describe it is very much kind of like cordyceps plants, if you know what that is. It's a type of a mushroom that can hijack an ant and basically do whatever the mushroom wants, propagate.
Like a parasite.
Yes, it's a parasite. But the parasite in this case is actually the human.
The grandfather.
Yes. He's using the mushrooms to keep himself healthy and alive. And whenever his body is done, he has children and he takes over the children's bodies.
Excuse me. Oh, okay.
To continue living onto another generation.
Okay, so I have another question. Do you think the grandfather did it to like use the mushrooms like as a weapon, or do you think he just did it to spread it like immortality through his family, or was it just for himself?
Oh, it was all for himself. He doesn't care about anybody. Major part of the ritual is consuming the body of the people who have it in their DNA, right? So the way that that's done traditionally back in the book was that there was a priest who would consume the mushroom, and then when the priest died, the congregation would eat the priest, a part of him, and then bury him back, growing the mushroom again. But because the grandfather has stolen it, the way that he's doing it now is he's having children, and the children now have the mushroom in them, and the family eats the babies the moment they're born.
Like figuratively, or actually they eat the babies?
Actually eat the babies. The most traumatic scene was one of the memories that Noemi got was that exactly a woman giving birth, them doing like a whole chant ritual, holding up the baby, then eating it. Then, while she's still like, she just had a baby, they bury the woman alive. And then her body is now
The mushroom?
what propagates the mushroom into the house.
Was it like a specific like baby? What I mean by that, like, was like the firstborn, or was it just like was like something like that?
So I think it had to be specifically that baby because The woman that they buried, the mother, she was actually the wife that he got during a deal. So he made a deal with the original tribe that gave him the knowledge to use this mushroom to get married to one of them, and he would give them money. But what he ended up doing instead was taking the woman, killing all of them, taking the mushrooms, and running away.
Oh. 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 So, towards the end of the book, then anything happened to the grandfather? Did he die? Like, what happened?
So at the end of the book, it's kind of like an escape, because Noemi's trying to escape this reality. She's trying to like get out of the house, but she has been basically not intoxicated, but like they've been feeding her the mushroom. Because she's she's been getting drugged. Yes,
the mushroom.
Because she's very, very compatible with the mushroom. So the whole family's like, oh my god, this girl can have babies, can live here and be okay because she's very compatible with this mushroom. So the grandfather, his idea is, I want to marry her. I want her.
Isn't she his granddaughter?
No.
Oh, okay.
He's the grandfather of the husband of her cousin. So she's related through her cousin's marriage.
Okay.
Yeah. So when she meets Catalina, she wants to marry her, right? The plan was to get Catalina, an outsider, because they need outsiders for the idea of, not having incest, because that creates more problems than they have to resolve. And that was the point of her cousin. Her cousin got married because they wanted an outsider. But Catalina was not compatible with the mushroom. That's why she's getting all these hallucinations. That's why she's bedridden. But the protagonist is, so they try to marry her. The love interest of this book, he's the cousin of the husband.
The husband? Okay.
So he's not like related in any way. The grandfather's plan was to take over that man's body, not his son's, to take over that man's body and marry Noemi. But she ends up escaping. Noemi and Catalina both kill the grandfather and the son, and they make it out, which is really the bare minimum.
Okay. That grandfather is interesting. Okay. So another question I would like to ask is like, what was like the time period of like this whole your setting and stuff like that?
So the time period was 1950s Mexico, and the main context, like time context that you would have to know, is that Mexico had just come off of a revolutionary civil type of war, where they were kicking out all the Spaniards, all the colonizers, and like reclaiming their land, right? So the grandfather's family, they were British, they're English, and they own mining. So they like silver mines. They came to Mexico in order to get those mines, and that's how they got most of their wealth. But the mines got shut down, and now they're like barely getting by. So that's really the main context. It's just like the Civil War really lost a lot of their workers, and it lost a lot of their power.
Okay, so another question I have is, do you think your book delivers like a type of message or like a life lesson or anything?
I think the message, if it would be to not chase for perfection, or to be wary of those who are chasing perfection. Because the grandfather, one of like the most evil people I've ever read about, like he believes in the Aryan race, in Hitler. He believes in a perfect race. He believes in the value of beauty, that everything pretty has value, and everything that isn't pretty does not have value to him.
Oh, so he has more of a traditional kind of mindset, you would kind of say?
Well, you would have to. He lived like 300 some years.
Oh.
Like he's old. And I believe that the main message of this book is like trying to be like a god, trying to be that this entity is like chasing an evil.
Like power?
Is corrupting, is becoming an evil.
Do you think there were any like metaphors or any like personification, any type of like literary devices in your source that you can recall?
Very early on, which I really hated at the time, but now like looking back at it is better. They kept personifying the house. The house to Noemi felt like a human. It was breathing. It was palpitating. There was a beating heart to it. I remember there was a scene where she was going up the stairs and there was like a vine going up the stairwell, and she felt it, and it felt like a blood vessel to her, like something carrying something inside of it. At the time, I was like, why does this house feel like alive? Is it like Monster House? Is the house like possessed or something? But no, apparently it was the mushroom that was like an alive being, now giving the house life.
Okay, so basically like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but Invasion of the House Snatchers.
Yes.
Okay. How would you like describe like the style? Like how do you think the style of the house, like what kind of house, you know what I mean?
Of the house?
Yeah, like style of the house, or like how
the way that I described it, it was a very old house. It was very secluded at the top of a mountain. It was giving early Regency. The indoors are like flourished with silver. The silver mines were so like big in the past that their stairwells, their cutlery, their tables, most of their stuff is silver. Like you would never think that they'll be struggling based on what they have indoor, but on the outside you can see all the signs of decay.
Okay.
Hello. And we're back. We're back here, and now we have Mariah, who's gonna tell us about you. So
Not you, the book.
not about you. So now, would you give us a brief summary of what you've read?
Basically, my book is about a guy who obviously struggles with a lot of mental issues, and he doesn't cope with them well, which makes him very obsessive. And in the beginning of the book, it's just whatever. He finds a girl who comes to his bookstore, and he just obsesses over how she looks and how she acts and what she's interested in. So he puts in the efforts to like try to talk to her and find out who she is. Afterwards, he later starts to stalk her because of his obsession issues, and he basically steals her phone, you know, goes through her messages and everything. So basically, the book is just about him obsessing over her, and towards the end, he basically kills her because his obsession grew so strong, and his jealousy issues and everything else. It's a lot.
My first question for you would be, what time period does this take place, and why does that time period affect the book you're reading?
So basically, the time period of my book takes place in the 21st century. The book doesn't really like specify which year it is, if I can remember. And I would say the time period really would affect the book because a lot of ways that he used to stalk her was through the internet and through like smartphones and computers. It was actually like scarily easy for him to stalk her because of all the access to the internet he had.
So if this story had taken place on an earlier time period, like the 20th or 19th century, it would have been a lot harder for him to gather information on her. So that's how it main focus. Okay.
Yeah.
The characters. What are the main characters throughout your story, and like do they interact much? Because I know you said that a lot of the book is him like in his mind talking and thinking.
He's like he's narrating it, but the main characters is him, his Joe Goldberg, and the girl I mentioned. Her name is Guinevere Beck. And those are the two main characters but there's other surrounding characters. They're not as important, but they build the story, which would be her best friend Peach, whom he killed because he was jealous of her. It would be her ex-boyfriend Benji, which he also killed because he was treating her bad, and he looked at himself as a hero for killing him for her.
So is this book, do you feel like it's giving the protagonist, the stalker, a good light in what he's doing, or is it through manner trying to tell the reader like, hey, this is really fucked up, or is it only expecting the reader to already accept that?
Well, I think because the book is in his own point of view, so the way he's portraying it, he's trying to make sound everything he does justifiable.
Mhm.
So I would say, as a reader, it really depends on how you read it, if I'm going to be honest. And what I mean by that is like, you can determine it of him expressing his love overly, or you could just say, read it and be like, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know? Because even though the idea of him killing someone out of jealousy is like, oh my god, but if you hear his reasoning, you may think, oh, this and that, or maybe I understand, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it really depends on who's reading and how you read it.
Is he educated? Did he go to like college? How well spoken is he? Because I wonder, is he able to like give metaphors, similes, stuff like that through just his thinking about people?
The way he speaks throughout the book, he sounds very highly educated, but when it was giving his like background story, his mom was very neglectful. She was like a drug addict. His dad wasn't really in the picture, so he had Mr. Mooney, the bookstore owner, basically took him under his wing and stuff like that and raised him around books. So from such a young age, he's been around books and all type of literature. So he picked up different things. So I don't know specifically if he went to college or anything, but he have been just around books, so he picked up a lot.
So he's just an avid reader. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That can make sense as to why. Is the book kind of like a journal for him, or is it just like his thoughts? Because if it was like a journal, the books would be a very good indicator as to how he started that.
I don't want to say it's like a journal. I think he's mainly, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like he's talking to himself, but not himself as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to kind of explain because he talks to himself in a first person, but talks to everyone else in like a third person, or you know, he'll be like, oh, he'll be talking to you, but talking to himself. So he'll use phrases like, oh, and you are getting dressed today, or you decided to check your phone and text me, but he's not physically actually talking to whoever he's talking about. So it's more like he's having a conversation in his head with himself about someone else, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
So it's kind of like he's not only narrating his life, but he's narrating other people's lives. It feels like he's not living his own. I know you said that he was like really mentally ill. Could it be that a part of him hates like his life so much that he refuses to actually live it and tries to live vicariously by watching other people?
I wouldn't say that, because at the end of the day, he inserts himself into their lives. I feel like he doesn't hate his life, but he loves other people's life, if that makes sense.
That does make sense.
He surrounds other people's lives around his, but when it doesn't fit, I'm guessing it doesn't fit the way he wanted it to be, he kills them. Literally.
Is there any plot stuff that you thought was confusing, like any maybe any route that he went on, or like a detour that you were like, why did the author include this? Why do we need to know?
Towards the end of the book, Beck, this is before he killed her, Beck basically ghosted him, I'm guessing, and he got into a whole new relationship, and it was just by this girl named Kitty, I think, or Shirley. It was something like that. She wasn't really that important, but the thing is, he would describe her positively. He was like, oh, she was amazing, she bought me coffee, and then basically he would compare those two, but he would speak very highly of the other woman he was currently dating, while he was also still thinking about Beck. Now, he then was saying something, like kind of complaining about Beck. He was like, oh yeah, she doesn't like, text me or anything, and then randomly Beck texted him out the blue when she was drunk, and then he just sprung up and went to her. So like, my thing is, why include that other girl in the picture towards the end of the book for no really important reason? And another question I would have the author is, even though he was ghosting her, he was getting ghosted by her, why didn't he put any effect of stalking her in that moment? Like, he didn't do anything. He was still stalking her. Like, he was looking through her emails because he has access to her emails, but that was about it.
Yeah.
So I was like, all the other time he was dressing up as construction workers, stalking her from across the street. Why during this specific time period? Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Like, why, when she ghosts you, would you stop stalking her? Like, that would be when most people start stalking you. Like, that's when people start, usually. But, okay. And one final question. If you could ask any question to a character in the book, what would you want to ask them?
One question in the book. I really don't know, because I feel like most of the characters are very open to the point where, like, even if you know too much. And okay, towards the end when he does kill her, well, now I'm going to fast forward to that. In the middle, okay, actually no, I do have a question. Joe words. One time when Joe was stalking Beck, he saw that she was going to therapy. He then went undercover and also started talking to the same therapist.
Okay.
My question is, like, I know he just wanted probably to pry information out, but when they were, like, talking about his sessions, it was weird because he mentioned nothing about Beck. He didn't do anything. And then once he found out that the therapist and Beck was sleeping together, he got mad at the therapist. And he killed the therapist.
So what's your question? My
question is, why get mad at the therapist and not Beck if Beck was the one you're supposed to be in a relationship with?
Well, I think it comes to that. I didn't read it, obviously. So I don't fucking know. But it from what you've told me, I think it comes with that savior complex that you were talking about when he, like, killed the guy who was being mean to her.
Oh, her ex-boyfriend.
I feel like it's that savior of, like, oh, Beck would never do this if you hadn't done something, or, like, you corrupted her. It's you who's the problem. It's not my love, my treasure.
Okay, yeah, that makes some sense. Because, okay, he did kind of describe something like that. He was like, oh, how he was using her or something. But then again, throughout the book, Beck never actually sat there and been actually loyal to Joe. It was all part of his delusion and everything. Even though there was times where she confided in him, but the time where they did get back together, the way it was described, in his eyes he seen it differently. With my eyes, she just wanted a you know what buddy. Like every time they were together, it was
just for that. Yeah. I feel like this book is it's scary to think about. Like, there's some real people who are like that out there.
Yeah, but it's just, I feel like it more just revolves around mental health. I think that's what kind of, like, the author was kind of, like, trying to talk about, is how far mental health could go.
Do you think that she did a good job, like, at portraying a mentally ill person?
I say yeah, but since I haven't read the other books, I know the last book it actually, like, what's the word? It makes it more present. Like, it makes it more obvious, because now you can tell there's, like, a mental obsession problem, but it's not really talked about, and he can easily portray to be normal. He can be a normal guy, but in private, he's a stalker, crazy killer.
Gotcha.
In that order.
All right. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye, guys.